first and foremost, and I just learned this the other day from an unnamed source, that the September 16th thing, where it's going to be, Y2K, everybody, it's the end of our hobby. I predicted that was going to be pushed back. Now, am I Ken Stradamus? Am I always right? Yes. Yes, I am. Does everybody listen to me? No, they don't. They just think I'm a silly man. But I knew, and I think it's kind of predictable since it's the government, that it was going to be pushed back, and it is. So September 16th is no longer RID date, and that is because, well, why? Why would that be? Speculate, sir. Why would that be?
Well, the speculation, I think, is pretty simple. All these modules that everybody needs in order to fly and be compliant, they're all on back order. You can't give anything. So if you want to, be compliant and do the right thing for the FAA, you can. I think the other problem is the modules the FAA predicted would be about $50. They're averaging about $200.
Right.
And so I think the FAA is trying to make sense of that and saying, hey, if we push this back a little bit, can we get these in stock so that people can use them and be compliant? And I really think that that's a key element for them, because if you're not willing to be compliant at the front end of the start of this thing, are you really going to go out and spend the money and become compliant?
No, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. So
but what about
makes sense.
What about the drones with the RID baked in? Because they didn't give a date. They just said, nah, it's not September 16th anymore. We don't know when, but.
Well, yeah. So if they've already got baked in, and that they missed that deadline too. It was originally supposed to be September of last year. They pushed it back until December to allow for other manufacturers to kind of get up to speed. And it's the nature of government. The FAA misses dates constantly. So I can see that happening this way through. Now, those that already have it baked in, there's nothing you can do. It's already, currently live.
Right.
So if you were to go fly, it's broadcasting, no big deal, right?
I guess. Yeah.
RID, yeah, it's going to happen, and everybody's going to be like, well, my helicopter, my drone has already got this in place. There's nothing I can do about it. Away I go. And at the same token, you're going to have probably police officers who authoritarian, right? I'm going to check this thing out. I got to make sure that this is in place.
I've been taking surveys. I've asked so many police officers what remote ID is. They have zero idea. They don't.
Idea, yeah.
No, I know. No,
they
and it's
don't
the same
care.
over here with that. Yeah, I was doing some test flights on my Inspire 2 about a year and a half ago now at a field, perfectly legal, and out of nowhere this car come flying down, and I was pushing the aircraft around a bit because I was testing some firmware, and this car come bolting down, and I was next to some properties, but at no point did I overfly, at no point did I encroach, and this guy starts having a go going, you flying over my car? And I'm like, no, I wasn't, mate. I can promise you that. I can prove it. It's on a DJI. It's got the maps. You can see the traces. I can actually show you. And he was having none of it. He said, I've called the police. I was like, fine, don't worry about it. So anyway, I'm sitting there, packs up, and I'm thinking, well, they're not here yet. So I sat there and waited. 40 minutes it took for the police to come. And I was sitting there with the boot open, and the police come up and they go, and they're looking around, and I'm going, are you looking for someone flying a drone? And they went, yeah. I said, it's me, come here. And we asked that. I said, guys, I didn't want to leave until you came. And we had a chat, and they were lovely guys, clueless. So I sat there and went, right, this is who I am. Here's number one is my permission to operate. Number two, here's my insurance. Number three, here's what actually happened. Here's what he's saying's happened. Here's the equipment. Do you want to inspect it? Here's the numbers. Here's this. And they just didn't know what to do. And in fact, I spent 20 minutes educating them on the rules, what they should have done. And they were like, we don't even know where to go with this. And I said, genuinely, nothing happened here. The guy's a bit upset for no good reason. And they were like, we'll go and have a chat with him. Don't worry about it. And I think the very fact I was still there, they just didn't, they were like, oh, right, okay.
Right. And that's why I pull over on my motorcycle before they put their lights on. Because I know they saw me going 150 miles an hour. But if you pull over first before they put the lights on, they're more likely to give you a break. But yeah, no, it's good to educate them. But all of this is a big nothing burger, I think.
Yeah.
Because eventually it will be all baked in. All these modules that people are talking about, that's for the stuff that didn't get updated or grandfathered in, or just the older stuff, and for FPV. Yeah. I can't imagine you're more in with the manufacturers. Do you think remote ID will eventually be built into DJI flight controllers and things like that?
Yeah, like DJI, it's all fairly straightforward for them. They'll comply because they have to comply with the laws. They're the biggest player. They've got no choice. So DJI stuff will be easy. O3, technically no different. They can't put it. No reason they can't put it in there.
It's
nice
just
and
firmware.
Easy.
It's just firmware.
It's firmware. The only bit it lacks is the GPS input. But as long as you're a GPS on the quad, they can pull that data. Nice and easy, straightforward. In fact, many people would complain that it's there. It would be a benefit for users if they did it. You can't deny that a choice of installing a module or not installing a module. You have to go with what's legally required, regardless of if you agree with it. What's best is to make people's life easier to comply with the legal guidance. And I think that'll happen. Flight controllers are a bit more complicated because it's all open source software, and that raises difficulties with regards to RID. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but these modules, right, are going to be $10 from China. They're not going to be official. They're not going to be compliant, but no one's going to know, right? No, it's going to transmit exactly the same as all of the ones you buy from the companies who want to, because you've got to, with the FFA's ones, they've got to register them. They've got to be all through. You'll be able to buy a module for $7, $8, but it'll transmit what you want it to transmit, and no one else will care. Right,
no one else will care, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
There is no enforcement arm of the FAA, right?
No.
The only way you're going to get caught, and I'm trying to tell everybody how to, non-comply, but I'm just saying, like, the cop that works in my small town is not going to come up. I could point to a GPS module on my quad, go, oh, there you go. If he even knows about remote ID. Well, there it is. You just point to something electrical. Yeah, there it is right there.
It's all noise. I do think, like, we've got a weird law in the UK, and I don't know, actually, you might be able to tell me in the States. So in the UK, it's illegal to use electric scooters on the main roads.
Oh.
So they've never been legalized, in fact. There's been a number of, very early on, there was a couple of nasty accidents with young kids, which obviously rattled a lot of people, and they've been banned on the public roads. Now, there are trials in certain areas where you can hire them and use them, but they're predominantly illegal. Now, the way they did that was very quickly. They started to come through, they saw an issue, and they banned them. And I still think it's bonkers. It's madness, because they can get on a push bike, but they can't get on an electric scooter. However, they managed to deal with that early doors. The drones, it's too late. We've been flying these for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Retrospective legislation on this is going to take 20 years to filter through to everyone, because everyone who's doing it already is just going to go, nah, I'm not doing that.
What about fixed wing guys? What about that community? Your foam, you're going to have to throw a thing on your foamy
too? I speak to them a lot, but I do fly a bit of fixed wing. I think, again, we're not as far ahead as you. So the problem is you guys have this whole mess of FRIAs and remote ID. We don't have that here yet. So RID has been specified as a requirement as part of the rules, but it's still used. It keeps getting pushed back. We don't also have the FRIA thing. There was no talk about that style of it. What you were going to have was, if you were members of certain clubs, you'd have some dispensations that way, not necessarily a location, more through the clubs. So we don't have the same problems you guys are facing. What they're doing in the US predominantly is, we're going to stop you flying everywhere, and you're only then going to be able to fly.
That's right, because
with it or at a specified location.
Right, but the FRIAs are disappearing, right, Ryan? Ryan, they're
well, they're disappearing, sort of, right? So I think the FRIAs was the invention, really, of the AMA. The AMA wanted to have a place where they can say, hey, we've been doing this for decades. We don't want to change. We don't need all your extra regulation. Just let us continue to do what we do. And so that's where the FRIAs grew out of. Now we have, some, and I'll say FPV crowd, especially, that are saying, hey, why can't I have a FRIA and create one in my own backyard to fly? That's not that's not how the FRIA works. And so you've got people that have gone and request for a FRIA, and they're being denied, and they're saying, wait a minute, why can't I do this? Well, because you aren't a CBO. You aren't an AMA, and that's really who they were intended for.
Yeah, and I also think it was a pacifier. I don't think they really ever intended it to be more than a handful. I think this was, if we give them this, we can get this through with little noise. And then when it comes to handing them out, we can find reasons to turn them down. And that's exactly what they're doing today.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And as always, innovation will outpace regulation. Always.
Yeah.
They'll never be able to catch up. And so they're always, going to be a little bit behind. But just for people who are worried, I say don't really worry, because if you think about this in real life, IRL, a practical application of in the concept, in the idea of what the FAA wants to do, yes, it's a violation of your privacy. Absolutely. We don't want the Karens to know where you are and all this blah, blah, blah. Is it going to happen? Maybe a little bit. I don't think it's going to be as bad. There might be some one or two Karens out there that make it their mission just to mess with a certain neighbor or whatever, but practically,
and Ken, that's where I will disagree, because I do think that there are going to be Karens that is their intent, that they know that there's been a drone, flying over 6 times over this past year. I'm going to find that drone. I'm going to find that owner. And so in that case, it is going to be dangerous for an
absolutely. Yes. But I don't think it's going to be as widespread as people think. There's not, like you said, there's not these tracking. They're not going to triangulate you. The FAA, if they catch you flying without it, what are they going to do? They're going to give you a warning. They're going to give you a warning. I think we know some people in our community that have been given hundreds of warnings. And yet they're still out there. I don't want to name names, but they're still out there doing that crazy shit.
And really, that's going to be a secondary violation. The reason they're going to go after you is, hey, you're violating airspace. You're over people. The adding in, hey, your drone is not RDE compliant, right? That's going to be that added. Hey, here's another.
It's like getting pulled over for speeding, and then they notice you have a taillight out. There's just going to. That's added value.
It's funny, Ken. I've said the same thing. People will either comply or they won't. It'll be what it'll be. It'll carry on. It'll be fine. The world will continue to revolve. People will still do what they want to do, and there's loads of way to go before we really see any problems with this. So we're probably 4 years off the police and the authorities even fully understanding what these rules even mean for them.
Absolutely. And Ryan, the September 16th, if you're just joining us, the September 16th date for RID has been pushed back. In your experience, how far do we have to wait?
I would expect that probably to be. My thought is, I look for it to be December, right? That it's the same thing. When they first came through with the compliance date for manufacturers, it was September. They pushed it back 3 months to December. I really seriously think that's what we're going to see in compliance for drones.
Remote ID modules will be a great stocking stuffer just in time for Christmas.
There you go.
So has it been officially delayed now? I haven't seen.
Yes.
I haven't caught up. So and what reason have they cited for a delay?
I haven't seen a formal official delay, but everything that I'm hearing is saying it's coming.
Okay.
So I would suspect we're going to see this in the next few days.
Because we know they'll never be ready. No one will ever be fully ready for this. There's a point where you just have to go, turn it on, loose enforcement in the first 6 months, and then you move it forward from there.
Right.
As everything comes in, because even in 3 months, who's going to be ready? What's going to change? It's not the FAA's problem if modules are available. Let's be open and honest here. The FAA's problem is the rule. They either comply with it or they don't. They either make it out there or they don't. So if they don't, what are they waiting for? Because they're not training the police. They're not training the authorities. They're literally moving a rule into legislation. So no one will ever be ready for this.
I don't know that that's the case. One of the things that we've seen with the FAA is that they have been starting to move on adjusting the UAS toolkit for LEOs, right? And so They are putting out additional information as to how, as a law enforcement agency, do you deal with a drone that's non-IDEA compliant, or how do you, and it's tagged on to the existing regulations that they already have. That toolkit is really old at this point, right? So it didn't yet incorporate the flight over people, and it has to do that. Obviously, as we get into the categorization, now that we have remote ID compliance, we're going to start to see category 2, 3, 4 drones that can fly over people. So they're going to have to get that out to the law enforcement community, make sure that sticks, and then go forward here, start doing our ramp checks. We are seeing the local law enforcement do ramp checks. It's still sporadic. It's happening more so at locations that are known drone spots in major cities with major airspace concerns. But I do expect that to come out as well, to say, here's a new law enforcement toolkit. Here's what we want you to do. And then truly, I would say you're going to start seeing more and more FAA ramp checks by local police officers.
There's obviously going to have to be a grace period, because remember back before you had to stop at an intersection, before stop signs were installed, the laws were in place. So you could break a law you didn't even know existed. And so informing is very, very important.
Yeah. It's only like their internal paperwork, or, well, not the internal, but you know what I mean. The paperwork and briefing stuff is where it's on them. Everything else is outside. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, won't it, how it goes.
I've got a question from Brian Lewis here. It says, if our AMA site is not a FRIA, how do we hold multi-GP races there without being under AMA insurance? That's a good question.
It's going to all get very messy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Because the insurance can't insure you if you're doing something illegal. It's really black and white, that, isn't it? Insurance can never do you. It's the same on anything. You can never be insured for anything for anything if there's a legal issue.
Yeah. Just a quick time check in. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say with AMA, understand that the insurance for AMA operations is secondary too. So the primary is up on you, right? Yeah. So it's your homeowners, and so if you're going to go out and say, oh, I don't need to be compliant, but I have AMA insurance. Oh yeah, check yourself, because you crash that thing. Your homeowner's insurance is going to say, I'm not covering you. You're going to end up selling your house to pay for that damage.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot more of this confusion happening in heavily populated areas. I'm lucky enough to live in BFE out here, so I might piss off a cow. But other than that, it doesn't really affect me.
You still need to power loop a cow, Ken.
Well, not with an open prop. Not with an open prop. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get
ducted, of course.
Yes, I'm get peed on my ass. We should probably mention remotepilot101.com. Isn't it a great place?
Great place.
It is a great place. Tell us about your place, Jason.
So, Remote Pilot 101, no one has prepared more Part 107 pilots than us. And you'll be pleased, those of you who are current customers now, you're going to be experiencing version 3 and a brand new learning management system in about 2 weeks. So the best just keeps on getting better. RemotePilot101.com. Use promo code Heron18, which, by the way, Ken, I can't brag on you enough. When we search promo codes, you know me, I'm all about our marketing and everything else. Heron18 is the most used promo code. Your people listen to you, Ken.
Yay! Thank Seriously. You, people. I appreciate that. And you've been very busy updating the lessons too, because
there's not every video has gotten a facelift. There's 76 videos in there. Every single one has gotten a facelift. The course has gone from 9 hours to almost 12 hours now. There's just so much new content. We're always trying to innovate, push new content. Now with all the recurrent tests changing so much, we're like, wow, we just launched our new course. We need to fix it now. So we're back to that. I was just reviewing some of the stuff our writers sent over earlier for some of the content, and there's some more great stuff coming out here soon as well.
And you take actual questions that test takers give you and kind of incorporate those in the quizzes too, right? So they're actual FAA questions.
We have a ton of data on that, no doubt. So yeah, and I always share, you know this, Ken, I call them the boot camps at the end where I share, this is a question you're going to see on your knowledge test. Let's not memorize it. Let's understand the why behind it. But just to prepare them for the knowledge test, you know this though, Ken, I want you to be safe in the real world. My mission isn't just to pass a test. I want you safe when you're out there flying FPV, whatever it is, so you can be a light and be a mentor to everybody else that's out there wondering about what this new drone space is, even though it's not that new, but to many it is so new. We have to be ambassadors to that.
You're a shining star, Jason. A shining star. Awesome.